As we
Morning.
should say in English, today is Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday. I hope you all had your coffee.
In progress.
That's two of us. Welcome everybody. As I said, we're just giving a few more minutes to let a few more Abarcans join us.
Working? Yeah, right. Yeah. Why are people that are not parents in this meeting?
Okay, I think we're good. Good morning, Abarca. Thank you so much for joining us in our very first Better Conversations panel, where today we will be talking about working parents. But first, I bet many of you are wondering, what is Better Conversations? Well, let me tell you. It's basically this new initiative that seeks to open up communication bridges in Abarca on topics that could challenge the status quo and should be discussed to empower an inclusive work environment. That is our goal. And because we would love to continue these conversations, we would love to hear from you. This means that after today's conversation, you're going to be receiving a survey just to let us know if you liked it, how we can make it better, and how we can discuss other topics that may be worrying you. Without further ado, thank you, Martinez-Gonzalez, Tony Perez, and of course, Dr. Karen Martinez-Gonzalez for joining us today in this discussion, our very first. Marcibel, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Alexandra. I just want to introduce Dr. Karen Martinez-Gonzalez and read a little bit about her so you get to know her background. Dr. Martinez is a renowned child and adolescent psychiatrist in Puerto Rico. She's an associate professor at the University of Puerto Rico, where she directs the Center of Study and Treatment of Fear and Anxiety, and is the chair of the Department of Psychiatry as well. She leads an interdisciplinary team in the development of research and treatment protocols aimed at improving the assessment and treatment of anxiety in Puerto Ricans. She also completed a postdoctoral master's in clinical and translational research in 2006 and is now the principal investigator and director of this program. She's an active member of several professional organizations, such as the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, where she has spearheaded multiple projects in order to increase outreach to diverse population, including being the co-chair of the multicultural special interest groups. She is also part of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, Trauma and Disaster Committee, and is a member of the board of directors of the Association for Clinical and Translational Science. Everybody, I want everybody to welcome, and all Abarcans to welcome Dr. Karen Martinez-Gonzalez. So I'm gonna leave it to you.
Thank you, and thank you, Abarca, for the invitation. I always try to make time to reach out to the community and talk about these topics that are so important. So I think it's really great of this company to be taking time in order to be dealing with what we as working parents have had to deal during these past months. So I want to jump right in and talk about why have these past months been so stressful. So what is it about the COVID-19 pandemic that has really impacted us so much? So especially if you live here in Puerto Rico, we've had hurricanes, earthquakes, you know, like we should be already equipped to deal with whatever comes our way. But really, the COVID-19 pandemic is very different from a natural disaster. First of all, it's a situation that has been continuously changing and evolving. So it creates an uncertainty about what is going to happen next. And it makes it difficult for us as adults to prepare and be able to adapt to what is happening as parents and also as employees. So adults are really not equipped to adapt to continuous change. If you think about adult lives, they're pretty routine. We do mostly the same every single day. You know, some people like to change it up a little bit more, but we're into our routine. So this COVID-19 pandemic has really made us have to adapt to a lot of different changes very quickly. At first, we had to adapt to the threat to our life. Are we going to get infected? Are our family members going to be infected? How do we take care of ourselves? Then we had to adapt to the changes that the government imposed in order for public health safety. So we had a lockdown here in Puerto Rico for a while, and we've had several different measures across the United States that we've had to adapt to. And then we had to come into terms with this is going to be long-term, and if we're working from home and our kids are studying from home, or maybe our partners are also working from home, how do we adapt to everything that's going on? So it has just been too much in too little time for most of us as adults to be able to adapt quickly. And that's where stress comes in. Because a lot of people talk about stress, but really when you look at the definition of what stress is, it's really, do you have the necessary resources to adapt to your environment? And when we're talking about resources, it's a really big term because it means financial resources, it means physical resources, but it also means psychological resources. So do we have what it takes to be able to adapt to these rapidly evolving changes and the uncertainty that COVID-19 has brought our way? So we're going to be talking now a little bit more about specific stressors for working parents. So the first thing that right now most of us are dealing with is what do we do about this at-home learning, and what do we do about schools that are opening up, and should I send my child to school? So the first thing that we need to be clear about is that unless you're formally doing homeschooling, what is going on right now is not homeschooling. So us as parents, we're not supposed to become teachers. Our children already have their teachers, and their schools are supposed to be developing the curriculum that they're going to follow. Our role as parents is just to be there for our children and support them while they're going through this role. So I think that expectation of what we need to be doing as parents with the at-home learning needs to be very clear, and we need to make it clear to ourselves so we make sure that we're not asking things to ourselves that we really shouldn't be doing. The other point that we need to be very clear is that our kids are not made to be in front of a computer all day. If you look at the structure of a typical school day when they're at school, they move around, they change from room to room, they have recess, they have a long lunch where they go outside or they go to a cafeteria. So this change of being cooped up inside is really very difficult for them, and it's not necessarily what's best for learning. So we need to be a little more patient, especially with our little kids, that really if you have a kid who is in pre-kindergarten, they really can't pay attention for more than 3 to 5 minutes continuously. That's just how their brain is wired. If you have someone who is like in the first or second grade, they'd probably be able to pay attention continuously for 5 to 10 minutes. So it's really not until you get to high school that you're able to be 60 minutes paying attention to someone the whole time. And maybe as parents, we haven't really seen that schools are so adaptive to child's development, but now we're figuring that out. So we need to be sure that we get all the information from school. How is it? What are the expectations of the school? And we need to know how the school is going to address what is called social emotional learning. Kids go to school not only to learn facts, but also to learn how to socialize, to learn how to have leadership, how to communicate effectively. So how is our children's school going to address that in this online environment? Another thing that has been very helpful for a lot of parents is to create visual cues to learning. So have a set place where the learning is going to happen. Because kids, they associate their house with fun, with having their toys, with having their PlayStations, their Xboxes, their Legos, whatever it is they're going to do for fun. So now we're telling them that no, this is the place where they're supposed to work and pay attention. So we need to create some sort of visual cue that will help them understand that this is the place where learning happens and this is the place where the fun happens. The other important thing that we need to deal with as parents is how do we manage screen time? Because we've been constantly talking about how hurtful it can be for kids to be a long time in front of a computer, and now we expect them to be on a computer the whole day, and we can't expect them not to use their games or to use TikTok or YouTube or all those sort of things that they use for fun. So we need to talk to them about how we're going to manage that in terms of screen time. And of course, what happens if the school opens, and how do I, as a parent, make the decision to send my kids to school or leave them in at-home learning? That's a very individual decision for all parents. And you really have to think about how much do you have harm avoidance, in the sense, do you feel very anxious about the COVID-19 situation, about my kid possibly getting infected and then bringing the virus into home? If you feel very anxious about that, then maybe you shouldn't be thinking about sending your kid to school again. But if you feel more comfortable, if you feel your kid is going to be able to manage that, then maybe you should consider, when schools open up, sending your kid again. And you really have to think, what is the best for my family? If really it has been a struggle to juggle working from home and having your kid at school at home, then maybe sending your kid to school might be something that will help the family. Also, some kids have been very affected by not being able to socialize and not seeing people outside of their home. So if your kid is feeling anxious or sad about that situation, about not being able to socialize, maybe they should go back to school. So we really need to put the social and academic needs of our children in a balance between the physical safety from the virus. And that brings me to the point of what, as a parent, I should be looking at. How do I know if my kid is adapting well to this whole COVID-19 situation? So the first thing is, nobody likes this. And, you know, I tell my patients that all the time. Nobody likes this. We wish it would go away, but this is the situation we have to live with. This is, the cards have been dealt, and this is what we got. So we need to be able to deal with this situation. So what do we need to be looking at in terms of maybe my kid is not coping well and might need some help in able to adapt better to the situation? One, is your kid still participating in activities that they're able to do? I know some sports haven't been able to come back because of the government regulations, but are they looking for new hobbies? Are they trying to contact their friends, even if it's through online games or if it's through chats, but are they trying to reach out? Are they keeping their friends? Are they trying to do things that they usually wanted to do? So that's one of the things. If we see a kid that is alone in its room, is not contacting their friends, doesn't really want to do something, that's a red flag that we should worry about. Another thing, especially in younger kids, that we might see that is a red flag, it's what's called separation anxiety, which is that kids that are very nervous about this situation with the COVID-19 might not want to separate from the parent. And of course, being at home and having to work at home and having a kid clinging to you might be a very difficult situation to adapt to. So that might be a sign of anxiety, especially in young kids who don't have the verbal skills to express what they're worried about or what has them nervous. Another sign that our kids might not be coping well is that they're not sleeping well. That might be that if, especially in younger kids, they used to sleep in their own bedroom, they had no problem with sleeping, and now they want to go back to your room and sleep in the parents' room. Or they're just having a lot of nightmares, or they're not able to go to sleep. That's another red flag of possible too much stress or anxiety. And we have to keep our eyes on making sure that they socialize. And this is especially true for kids that are a little bit older, preteens and adolescents, which we really need to think that with adolescents, their whole developmental stage has been put on hold because of the COVID-19 situation. They're supposed to be going out, making new friends, doing new activities, and they're not able to do any of that. So they really have had to struggle with this situation. So just to start wrapping up, let's talk about like the top 5 parent concerns at these uncertain times. So the first concern that a lot of the parents bring to me is, am I being a good enough parent? And especially if you're a working parent, that is, am I being a good enough parent and a good enough employee? And at this time, anything that we're doing, if we're being able to keep our kids safe, to keep our kids doing some kind of work in school, if we're being able to keep doing some kind of work, we're doing good enough, because we are living through a pandemic. This is something that our society had not lived with in the past 100 years. So this is really a very new situation that we did not have the skills to be able to deal with. So if you're here at this conference right now, you're doing a good enough job, because you're trying to keep up with your work, you're trying to keep up as a parent. And we really need to be compassionate with ourselves, because this is an emergency situation, and we've been able to keep working, we've been able to keep our kids progressing through school, even though we're going through a world emergency. The whole world is going through this. So we really need to keep in check that we've done a great job in keeping things together and keeping things moving, even though this is an emergency situation. And the other question that a lot of parents bring is, can I really be a responsible employee and a good parent? Is it possible to do the two things? And this is something that I think parents have been struggling with always, not only during the pandemic. We always have the two responsibilities that are there and that we have to balance. And again, at this time, we are doing good enough because we're doing both things in an emergency situation. So it is important that if you feel that you're not being able to comply with any of the two, if this really is affecting you in terms that you are not sleeping, that you're not able to eat well, that you don't have appetite, that you feel like you don't have energy or motivation, then those are signs that maybe this has been too stressful for you and that you need to find some professional help that might help you with this situation. So the other concern is how to deal with the uncertainty and the stress. And this is where, even though we are trying to keep up with work, we are trying to keep up with being with good parents, we need to take care of ourselves if we're going to be good employees and good parents. So we need to figure out what helps us manage stress. So this is very different for every single person, but we need to make time to do things that help us relax or that help us disconnect from all of these responsibilities that we have. And that includes having enough sleep every single night, having some sort of exercise routine. Most of the day now, we are in front of our computers. We didn't figure that we moved so much when we were in our offices, now that we are at home, but we do. So we have to make sure that we're doing some sort of physical exercise. And we have to make sure that we're having a good and balanced diet. That continues to be true even during this pandemic time. And then making that time, that personal time, where you're going to do something that you really like, that really helps you deal with stress, is extremely important right now, because we're living through a very stressful time. Even if you're making time for this, you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you have episodes where you panic, where your heart goes really fast, where you're sweating, where you feel like something terrible is going to happen, then maybe this stress is too much and you might be able to get some help from a professional. And most of the help that we offer in terms of this extreme stress or anxiety is really just therapy, where we give you new coping skills to deal with these situations. So I know I'm a psychiatrist and people always think about medications, and medications sometimes do help, but what most helps is trying to find new coping mechanisms to deal with this. And also, you need to think about is the pandemic affecting your child's development, and are they coping well? And if not, again, there are professionals that can help your kid deal with this in a better way. So in order to wrap up, because I have a minute left, so what we're saying is these are very stressful times. We had never lived with this before. So we are doing good enough. We are doing what we need to do to keep our work flowing and to be at the best parents that we can right now. And if at any time you feel this is overwhelming, then it might be time to seek professional help, someone who can give you some tips on how to, for you, very individually, develop a plan that helps you deal with stress. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martinez. I'm sure many Abarcans could agree that given this new normal, it's very important and necessary to have these tools and not to lose sight of simple things like continue to having a healthy diet, keep physical movement, keep the kids active. So thank you so much. And now to speak about the Abarcan perspective of working parents and how she has been able to manage this new reality, not only as an Abarcan, but as a working mom, our very own Martinez-Gonzalez.
Hi everybody. So I just wanted to share a little bit of to share my experience and how it's been so far. And I guess create the space later on for conversation and for all of you to ask questions, because I know most of us feel the same way. And I wanted to share some of the highlights of what I've done a lot of reflection in this process. Initially, I always felt like I wasn't doing enough in the initial stages when this was first announced and we decided to go work remote and think about how do we change our wellness strategy, what do we do different, for people, and supporting my wise contributes. So I was struggling with work and balancing what was going on at home, right? And basically in my reflection, I realized that what makes this really hard is how our days like blend together. Sometimes it just feels like Groundhog Day, like same thing all over again, right? We're at home, and it's like you develop a routine, right? But it's not like a routine that you are really have the liberty, right, to do or options, right, to do and alter it however you want. So I think that for me made it really difficult. And also when you drive to the office, like there's like a physical boundary already set there that you're able to make that distinction of when your like life, work day or like, personal time starts, right? So it's really hard when you're at home and you're in a Zoom and, my son, I have a 6-year-old, he's an only child, comes in and he's like, you're here, like I can talk to you, right? So he doesn't know and understand that I need to work. So I've been like working on explaining to him that he can't like just like, come in into the other room when I'm working, right? So, and it took some time for him to understand. So I've had to find ways on not feeling guilty, because then I would feel guilty, right? Like I'm not a good mom because I'm telling him like I'm in a meeting, I can't like help you right now. So I've been tagging, with my husband, trying to figure out how to divide, right, the day, find help, and how do I, work on this and make sure that he gets what he needs, right? And I've been balancing that out in terms of the time that I spend with him. So he'll come, he finishes his day at 2, he'll come in my room and he's like, Mama, like it's time to play, like, let's play. And I'm like, no, I can't play, my day ends a little bit later. So explaining that to him and like being able to make compromises. So I've found that every night, like I do make a commitment to, bathe him, eat with him, and then he loves to learn new things. He's very like curious. So and he's very also demanding and very verbal on what he needs. So every night we started reading. I bought a book that's really short and it's all like an encyclopedia of things, and we read together. And for example, like he's into like dinosaurs and like mummies and all this stuff, so I'll read a page and we'll talk about it. I also work with him, like he's an only child, so he's alone most of the time, especially if my husband and I are working. So I encourage him to express how he's feeling. Yesterday he was really sad, so we sat down and he started, like, we watched pictures when he was a baby, and he started sharing how he felt. He was missing. I used to live in Dominican Republic, so he started talking about people that we haven't seen in a while, and he's like, I miss them so much, and he started like becoming sad. So I told him, like, like, how do you feel? And like, we will get to see them one day, and like let him express how he's feeling so he can let that emotion out, right? And talk about it. So, and he's done that quite sometimes. When I'm working, he'll come in and tell me, like, Mama, like the most important, like money is not the most important thing in life, living things are. So like he, immediately I feel guilty, right? I'm like, what? There's a 60-year-old telling me this, and I'm like, I know. And we already have some time scheduled to play and like talk about this. He'll come. I think that's, and yesterday he told me, he came in and he's like, I'm tired of watching YouTube, Mama. So like all of that, like I think as parents, like we have to find ways. And I think it resonated a lot what the doctor shared on, like, how do we reframe that, right? Because in the moment you're gonna be triggered and I felt guilty. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm the worst. Like he's watching YouTube, like he's tired about YouTube. But then like as I like take a step back, and it's like, he was studying all day, he did math, he read, he's been watching, he's using that also, like, to make, he knows how I feel, right? So they can see that, so he's using that. And I told him, like, look, you can play with something else, and my meeting will be over soon and we can sit down and talk. So we're all in the same boat. I just wanted to share some of my experiences and some of the things that I use as a working mom to I guess, like, go through this and like be able to manage his feelings, my feelings, and like balance out what, you know, work and being a mom and a wife and a mom and a, you know, all the other stuff and other roles that we have. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mercy, so much for that. So let's go to our next panelist, because we can definitely not talk about working parents without including the papas. And joining us as well is Tony Perez, clinical pharmacist in PBN operations, to talk about the papa's point of view, his experiences, and how he is managing. Tony, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you for including dads. I feel like dads and parenting in general are kind of forgotten when it comes to work-life balance. And it's, I guess, as parents, probably our passion is our children. And sort of like our purpose blends into parenthood. And as a dad, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning when everything started shutting down, and I saw my child's life shut in, that's not the experience I wanted for him. And it also began to blend into my work life. It started to, you know, the door banging, Papa, what are you doing? And Papa, come out. And all of those instances, like Mercy said, bring a lot of guilt. Because you feel like torn, like I need to continue what I'm doing, but my son is calling me, and like, and realizing that you have to commit to a time that you can dedicate to them. You have to commit to a time where your attention is solely on them, so they can feel your love and your focus on them. Another piece that I struggled with is before, he had like a scheduled routine where, you know, he would go out with his mother to, I don't know, Gymboree, like all of these activities, because he is not of school age yet. So since he's always at home and there is no set routine really, because it's just like existing at home, it becomes more difficult because, like Mercy was saying, they just see us there. Like, what, like, you know, why can't you walk away from the computer and spend time with me, especially when they're at some point. I mean, he's more verbal now, but in March he was much less verbal than he is now. So it was difficult for, like, try to explain over and over, like, Papa no puede, like Papa can't come. Other thing that I struggled with is the apologizing. I feel like my son was always in the background as a typical 2-year-old, screaming and having a tantrum, or throwing a ball at me, or like, it's just something was happening. And it was just constant apologizing. And I think as the pandemic went on and I saw other parents, I was like, this is just our normal. Like, we have to stop apologizing, because like, yes, I was always remote before, but most of the day my son was not home. He wasn't there to cause interruptions and to constantly be calling for my attention. I think I still struggle with that. I said earlier today, it's like a reflex. Like, I automatically go to apologize. But I feel like we're on the same boat. All the parents are on the same boat. And I feel like we all sympathize for each other. And even some of my amazing coworkers that don't have children, like, I feel like they're so graceful and like understanding, and work hard to make us feel like, you know, we are doing the best that we can given the circumstances. It's one of the things I love about Abarca. I feel like our like family is so strong, and that part helps me through the day. I was gonna add, there was also a point in time where I feel like it's important to give mom a break. And I feel like at the beginning of the pandemic, my wife was asking me a lot for that. And it was more of like one-on-one time with my son. It's not like the family time, but like really dedicating time to him with her not there. And I recommend that to all the Abarca dads. I feel like even though we're all home, like creating a space where you can spend time with your child or children alone, whether it's reading a book or bathing them, playing out in the terrace, and the other parent has a break, it's so important for mental health, especially if you have young ones or you have more than one child. And the last thing I was going to talk about, because like Mercy, I have points, is creating that boundary. I feel like at the beginning of the pandemic, there was more, like Claudia wrote in the chat, like work-life integration. But I feel like there has to be some type of boundary, like where I'm disconnected and paying attention to my family, and not using work as a distraction or like a way to keep me entertained throughout the pandemic or throughout, being locked at home. Because that time with family is still just as valuable, still as important as always, even if we're at home and not going anywhere. But that was pretty much it. I just want to say thank you again for including dads in the conversation.
Of course. Thank you so much, Tony, and to our panelists and their insights. Now we want to open the floor to Q&As. I just want to add that I'm not a parent, disclaimer, I'm not a parent yet, but constant worry I seem to be hearing a lot about is how do we set those boundaries, or first off, how do we explain to these kids that even though we are at home, and maybe Dr. Martinez can help us out, how do we explain to them that even though we're home, I'm working, and I can make some time for you, but just a little bit later. How and not feel guilty. How do we manage that guilt and not making them feel less or sad or anything?
Yes. So I think there are two aspects of that question. One of them is how do we create those boundaries? And I talked a little bit about with kids creating them, like the physical cues of where they're going to study, and that applies to us as adults too. It helps, especially if we're not used to working from home. It works for us to have a set place where we're gonna work from, and that creates that physical cue. Like Mercy was saying about getting in the car and going to work, that creates that cue of, okay, I have to change my brain into work brain from family brain. So we need to create the same type of change for our brain within our home. So it might be, it depends, everyone has like a specific home environment. So it might be that, the only place I can work from is, my dining room, and I have a space in my, but use the same dining room space and like take everything out in the morning, like you're going to work and you just got to work. And when it's time to end work, put everything back in and put it away from you physically, that you don't even see it. And the same with kids and the kids area where they're going to be studying. And then we need to work in terms of creating that boundary with our kids. We need to work out at it depends on their developmental level. Of course, if we have a toddler, or a preschooler, they're not really going to understand that, just like Tony said, they're there so they can play with me, because they're physically here. But we need to see how we can do those physical boundaries. So maybe like if we're able to be in a closed space and we close the door and we put a sign up, that something that, they can't read anymore, but maybe like a sign, and we talk to them and say, when this is up, when whatever we put there is up, it means that you cannot interrupt me, that I'm very busy. And, and we work with them, they're going to understand it. The kids adapt much quicker than us adults. So they're really going to understand that, but we need to make sure that they understand and that we communicate what's going on in a level that they can understand. Of course, with older kids, then it's going to be easier. And then the other piece that you were talking about, Alexandra, it's the guilt. And we've mentioned the guilt and saying, I'm sorry. But again, like I said, when I was talking about, we are doing such a great job. I sometimes I'm just amazed at how we've been able to keep working, keep kids in schools when we're going through a pandemic. It's crazy that we've been able to do that, because this is an emergency that the whole world has been going through. So we really, emotions, they're used, the purpose of having emotions is that they make us be aware of something that needs to be taken care of. But guilt really is an emotion that doesn't really help in anything. Guilt, the only thing that it does, it takes away our brain energy in something that we really cannot do anything about, because this is the situation that we have. We're going to have it for a long time, and we're not going to be able to get away from it. So right now, feeling guilty really doesn't help at all. So it helps that if you start feeling guilty and feel that, oh my God, look what I did, and oh, I'm so sorry, and all that, if you're going through those loops, just stop and say, hey, I'm doing good enough. I'm doing what needs to be done. I'm waking up every day. I'm getting something done. So it's good enough. So just talk to yourself, and that really helps just disconnect from the guilt.
Awesome.
May I add, Alexandra, can I add something to
First, go ahead.
yes, I guess like what I do when I have those feelings is like I try to reflect and understand like where is it coming from, so I can like understand what I need and make those requests, like if it's from my husband or if it's at work or if it's from like my team, etc. Like to be able to really understand like what do I need in this moment, to be able to reframe that feeling and then do something about it, right? To your point, like there's nothing in feeling, like you can feel guilty and like you're just pulling yourself down, right? So it's really understanding what's driving that emotion and that feeling and doing something about it.
Awesome. I just want to mention that there are some interesting questions in the chat. Marilis Martinez asks, are there any specific or different recommendations for parents that have a child with ADHD?
Yes. So in general, you know, kids with any special situations, they're going to struggle even more with doing school at home. So you really need to think, if they're having special accommodations at school, then we need to do the same special accommodations at home. So for example, with kids with ADHD, they really cannot be in front of the computer for more than 15 or 20 minutes without like at least having a walk around the house. So we need to make sure they have enough breaks. With kids with ADHD, something that sometimes helps is having them do something physically while they're sitting in front of the computer. So maybe instead of a chair, like having one of those big exercise balls where they can at least like bounce. That helps sometimes with kids with ADHD, or at least having something that they can do with their hands so they can be moving physically. But I think it's important that we take into consideration and that we talk to the teachers. Like I said, we are not teachers, we are parents. So we are not experts in education. So talk to the teachers who know your child and ask them what worked in the classroom. How can I adapt that to home in order to make them learn better? And the same applies with kids with autism, with kids with specific learning disorders, that they're going to struggle even more with being able to understand that we're doing this at home and that it's online schooling. So think about what they were doing when they were physically in school and try to adapt that to your home.
Awesome. Julie Santiago has a comment to add. Julie, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Julie Santiago. I'm 28 years old, single mother of a 7-year-old. Yes, I had her when I was 20. That's usually the next question people ask. How old were you when you had your child? And I just want to share something very positive. During the pandemic, I was dealing with a recent death from a family member, recent medical diagnosis that was actually affecting all aspects of my body. So I was in a very bad position, and I just thought, wow, things just really got worse for me. There's no escape. There's no going out with friends anymore and just distracting my mind. But I would like to share what really helped me. I believe what got me out of that state of mind, because it is a state of mind, was to make time for myself. Make time for myself to train, not just my, to learn new skills, but to also train my physical body, my physical abilities, and to feel better about who I am inside and out. And I think that really helped me cope with, homeschooling, working with my team at Abarca, and making time to learn something new, time management. That's what I wanted to say, time management, to manage my time. It really helped me to make time for myself. So that's what really helped me. And I felt like I had to share it here because I know everyone here is looking for an answer of what could I do better? How can I do it better? And when can I do it better? And I think it all starts with yourself, because if you don't put your oxygen mask on, there's no way you could do better for just anyone, not even your own child. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Judy. We have a few comments in the chat. When someone asked, what do I do if I have two kids that are fighting all the time? Because I know usually I don't have kids again. So I usually imagine working parents with only one kid. I don't know why I do that. But of course, people tend to have more than just one child, and they tend to fight all the time. What do I do if they're always fighting in the background?
Yes. So if it's possible, it would be important to physically separate them. So they should be, their school areas should be as distant as possible in the school, because they're gonna find a way to fight and to distract each other, because that's what they're doing. They're distracting each other with the fighting, you know, because it's much more fun to fight with your brother or your sister than to do schoolwork. So that's always going to be, you're going to be motivated to do that. So, and I've even had parents that have had to make arrangements, like have one kid stay at home and then have the other kid go somewhere else to like the other parent's office, and they do their online school there, just because it's been so difficult to manage both at the same time. So again, every family will have like the perfect combination of what's going to work. It's just a matter of start problem solving, like what's going to work, what works for me, and what can I do. But again, they need to be apart.
Correct. Luis Vega asks, is there any recommendations for 4-month-olds? Tiny babies?
Yes. With infants, you know, and tiny babies, the problem is that they're not regulated yet. They don't have a set time of sleeping and eating. So with infants, you have to follow their schedules. Around 3 years old, we've already, you know, the parent really has control over their child's schedule. But before that, you really have to follow the schedule of the child, especially with an infant. So basically is when the infant sleeps, then you work. Because it's really, you know, they're biologically, they're not able to have a routine yet.
Okay, awesome. I think we have time for one quick comment. Shirley, I think you said you wanted to comment something quickly. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Can't see you. Where are you? Is Shirley still with us?
I don't think I wanted to make a comment, but I asked a question on the chat because I am alone most of the time with my toddler of 2 years old, and he's a very demanding boy. So he wants to go out, he wants to go in the car, and they have a meeting, and then I have to like take the cell phone, get in my car, attend the meeting, and attend him. So, and I'm cooking at the same time. I'm trying like to do things fun for him, but I think he gets bored, and it's normal. So it's a little demanding. So that was my question.
Yes, like I was saying before 3, it's really you know, kids just naturally, they're still in the process of getting their routine set up and being regulated and being able to self-regulate, which I think that's what you're basically getting at, that you have a kid that still really needs that guidance from the adult on how to manage being bored, or, you know, or not having anything to do, and needs that guidance. So again, with that type, especially if they're very demanding, that's their personality, you need to work with their personality in terms of, okay, so when do I know, or what activity do I know that really has them, you know, with their attention sustained for a bit of time that I can work, and try to work with their schedule. And I know it's really hard because work is demanding, and work is not gonna necessarily adapt to your child's schedule, but really fighting in terms of where they're at developmentally and biologically, it's going to be impossible. So you have to go with where they're at right now.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. I think it was Sharon who wanted to share something.
Yes, was me. Just hi. My name is Sharon. I had a ADHD kid, and I have a autism kid, and yeah, you understand me, doctor. Is very stressful, but you know, the things that I want to comment when you said the exercise ball, he's constantly rocking the chair next to me because he do everything in the back of me. So in the table. So it's very important that with kids with these conditions or this special accommodation, we have another things too, like the fidget. All the time, I recommend that. Other thing that I recommend is to have his favorite toy next to him, just like a reward. And this is my baby here. This is a bell. I love it so much. So every time he needs something and I'm in a meeting or something, he don't understand at the one, if I said one time I'm working like other kids because his condition. So I have to keep saying the thing over and over every day, 10 times, 20 times, I don't know, a lot of time. So you have to keep that patient in your mind and try to understand in a positive way that he's not on the school, he's gonna demand a lot of time. And something very important, I always reward him with different things at the end of the day. I promise to him, because you need to, if you promise something, you have to do it. I promise to him to go to the pool at the end of my work, even if it starts a little bit raining, but not with lightning. Run bicycle, do something with them because they need that bonding. And even if they're in home, you need to make that space for them. So I admire all you guys there. I've been listening and I'm like, I'm here, I'm with you. So there's a lot of help out there in YouTube or recommendations. So for these special kids, or everything is unique. Every home is unique. You have to take time, even to wake up, do your makeup, girls. Hello, go, do your makeup, do your things like you're gonna work, because this is a routine that you don't have to change for the kids. And it's very helpful, everything you said and everything everyone here shares. So thank you for that.
Gracias, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon. Well, I think we're running a little short on time. We're almost closing up. Dr. Martinez, would you like to add something to what Sharon said?
Yes, I think, Sharon just said something that it's really important, that this is a very individual process. Every single family is going to be dealing with this in a very different way. So it's great to hear what other people are doing because it helps to have ideas. But again, do not feel guilty if it's not working out for you, because it just means that you have to keep on trying different things. So this is not the time where we need to have everything figured out. It's a pandemic. It's a world emergency. We are not supposed to have everything figured out. We're supposed to survive. That's like our main goal right now in life, is to survive this pandemic. So if in addition to surviving, we are able to keep up with work and make our children survive too and do schoolwork, then we are awesome. We're superhumans. We're doing an awesome job. So I think, we all should just be aware of that and tell us that every single day of our lives, at least until we get through this pandemic.
Well, you heard it first. Abarcans are awesome. Never doubt it. And lastly, I think I saw our very own Jason here. Is he still with us? I don't know if he wants to add a few words.
I think he just disconnected, Ale.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry to hear that.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, Dr. Martinez, is there anywhere we can get a hold of you if we need, because there are a lot of questions, comments in the chat. We may need to extend this to another conversation in the future. Where can we get a hold of you?
Yes, the best place is my email, which I am going to write in the chat right now. And I know people are tired of writing emails, but during a pandemic, it's really the best way to be able to connect. And I am very responsive to my emails, and I do not mind, having questions, very specific questions. It just takes a few minutes of my time. And, I find that's part of the work I do as a child psychiatrist, helping parents, get their questions answered, get the resources they need. And if it's something that you need recommendation for professional help, please do not hesitate to reach out. At least if you're in Puerto Rico, I can definitely help you out in terms of where to go for help.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. Mercy, Tony, our other two panelists, is there anything else you would like to add?
I would say that, you're not alone. And I think that the space was to have this conversation, reach out if you need help. It helps also to have talk it through with someone else to either get the help you need or clarity on what's, holding you back or pulling you down. We all have those moments. For me, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. Now it's more stable, right? As you get to use of it and you get to understand a little bit more of what you're feeling, what you're needing, etc. And make compromises with yourself, like Julie was sharing. What do you need? And create those spaces for yourself and also for others, and family and at work. So I think reach out. However you're feeling. We're also here, the talent strategy team, Marilise, myself, we're also available. So whatever you need, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
I was gonna say thank you again, as I said before. And to all the dads out there, to stay strong.
Stay strong. Very important. Hashtag stay strong. Abarca, stay strong. Okay, I think we have a couple of more minutes. Let's see. What do we do now? Let's do a quick survey. Did you like today's conversation? Do you think we should extend, maybe do another segment of this conversation? Yes, I'm all, let's do it. Okay, I like what I'm seeing in the chat. Okay, well, I would like to thank everyone who joined today. This is, like I said at the beginning, this is our very first conversation about working parents. We will be talking about other topics. You will be receiving today a survey. We want to hear from you, so please, please, please fill it out. And just let us know, try to be as open as possible. So thank you so much, and we hope you have an awesome rest of the day, and happy Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you.